Hey folks, Paul here from Acres Homestead, sending sincere greetings your way from my humble little home nestled in the high mountain desert of southern Oregon. Hope you all have been well. This is my little spring of 2023 update for y'all. I think I'm going to do 2 of these seasonal updates. I think that works for me, so expect to see 2 of these per season, approximately. So anyway, spring has definitely sprung around here. And as you can see how busy these manzanita bushes are, just buzzing and alive with pollinators. I absolutely love to see it. This is a little gooseberry bush that I'm fortunate enough to have right out in front of my cabin in my wildflower bed. It's gorgeous. And you know, with the arrival of the warmer weather, I've been working on a handful of different projects around the homestead. I'm real excited to share with you. It seems every day there's 1,000,001 tasks demanding our time and attention, but this easygoing off-grid thing has given me a lot of time and opportunity to take a step back and admire the flowers while we have them. The work can always wait. The coffee needs to happen right now, you know what I mean? Anyway, let me show you all a little bit of what I've been up to here at Acres Homestead. This is how I spend most of my mornings, just out watering my green garden. This is the hugelkultur cold frame that I built last winter, and it's been growing faster than I can eat it. I love this little 2-gallon pump sprayer for spot watering right at the base of my plants. Sometimes I'll mix about 1 part urine to 5 parts water just to stretch it out that much more. All of my water is precipitation collection, either rain or snow melt, or what I manage to haul in, so it's never just simply thrown away. As you can see, I got spinach, kale, mizuna, parsley, radish, chives, all kinds of stuff growing in here. And this is a fun little surprise. This here is known as miner's lettuce, also known as claytonia. It's a wild edible. I got a lot of it actually in the local area. More than welcome in my garden. One of the chief water conservation techniques I employ is very heavy mulching of my crops. A thick layer of mulch provides a lot of benefits, primarily cooling the soil and preventing water loss via evaporation. I've also noticed that thick, airy layers of mulch will also insulate the ground from the occasional late frosts that we do get up here from time to time. Generally leave some left over and avoid taking the entire clump so it'll grow back and reseed itself. After I cut my grass, I generally lay it out in a wheelbarrow and let it dry. That keeps it from forming mats in my garden beds when I do put it down. You can see here to the left of Mr. Monster and I got a couple of my little potato beds, and I'm using a modified Ruth Stout deep mulch method to conserve water and ease harvest. The edges of the beds are dug down about a spade deep, and naturally rotting wood on the borders also retains moisture, preventing the sun from drying out the bed from the outside in. You can see behind me I got a couple rows of onions going, and I stuck some twigs and sticks in the southern border of the bed to provide some protection from the harsh midday sun while still not completely shading them out. These little things seem to make a big difference in getting my crops to flourish in my harsh climate. These garden beds are pretty simple for me to make. I just dug the perimeter, set in some rotting logs from the local area and turned the soil, removing any rocks as I go, and mixed in a couple shovels of compost. You may notice that my beds are on an east-west axis for sun exposure and along the contour of my land to act as a swale, taking advantage of any potential runoff and a speed bump for the groundwater as it flows downhill. A bit higher up on my property, I had some logs bucked from some trees that I had cleared last winter, and I had set them up off the ground to cure for a bit before hauling them down to my wood yard to further process into firewood for next winter. My cabin's pretty small, and I've been pretty frugal with my firewood. I've only gone through about 1.5 cords last winter, and this juniper burns really well. It's got a wonderful spicy scent to it when you cut it too. Now I'm loading these logs on my jjigae. It's an agricultural tool from Korea that I made last winter, and I even made a video on its construction and use, and you can find that in my channel. I found that if I buck my logs into about 3 times the length that I eventually want to cut them into for firewood, that's the most efficient method for transporting with my jjigae. Using the jjigae, I can pretty comfortably transport at least my body weight in wood, and it helps that my cabin's downhill from most of the trees on my property. If I had an ATV or a four-wheeler, then I'd be more reliant on fuel and maintenance of the machine. A huge appeal of the off-grid lifestyle for me is divorcing myself from our reliance on these faulty systems for our very basic needs, heating our homes, transporting our fuel, even feeding us. It's all here, free and available. All it takes is sunlight and water, and they fall out the sky for free. It takes me far less effort to cut and collect firewood to heat my home all winter than to sit in traffic, traveling to and from a job, pumping carbon into the air and putting up with utility bills and rent or a mortgage. That sounds a lot more difficult to me than processing firewood. Once I get my logs back to the cabin, I just set them up off the ground in a sunny spot to further dry. It takes no effort at all, and in the course of a slow morning, I might pull a couple logs, and by lunch have a month's worth of firewood split, stacked, and ready. This off-grid thing might look difficult, but in reality, a lot of the times I just feel like it's too easy. I really want a regular animal protein source, and I'm not nearly as good a hunter as Mr. Monster, so I considered getting chickens at one point, but after giving it a ton of thought and talking to a lot of wonderfully weird poultry people, I decided to go with quail. I sketched up some plans for an elevated and protected quail coop, large enough to keep me adequately supplied with eggs, and here I am more or less making sure I have enough dimensional lumber for the job. My area's got a very healthy number of coyote, bobcat, fox, owls, snakes, hawks, skunks, raccoons, weasels, etc. that would love nothing more than a delicious little quail, so I thought an elevated coop was really the best way to go. And wouldn't you know it, I don't actually have enough dimensional lumber on hand, but I certainly can make more than do with the natural native timber that I harvested from my property. I had a mess of these small little ponderosa pines crowding each other out, so I selectively harvested some of them last winter, and they'll make excellent building material, more than adequate for my purposes. It took me a couple days and a little bit of improvisation, but in no time at all, I had actually built myself a, serviceable little quail coop. I'll put out another video on its construction in the near future, but I'm already looking forward to that first delicious little quail egg. After a lot of consideration, I decided that I wanted to build myself a rustic, covered front pergola out in front of my cabin. A good buddy of mine hooked me up with a whole pile of windows he had left over after he had upgraded his windows. And what I envisioned building is a nice, sunny, covered kind of front porch. A nice place to sip my coffee and enjoy my breakfast. First things first, I gotta get these posts in the ground, something nice and sturdy to build off of. There are frost tables that you can look up your area that'll tell you the minimum depth that you need to dig to avoid frost heaving. Frost heaving is when the water freezes in the ground, it expands, and it can push anything that you have in there up. For my area, it's about 18 inches, so I went ahead and dug my post holes about 20 inches deep. And here you can see I'm backfilling with some crushed rock, soil, and a little bit of cement just to hold it all together. And giving it some good tamps with that digging post just to kind of lock it all in and make sure that it's nice and mixed up, so that way when it rains it'll actually get the cement to activate. I don't think you can see it in either of these posts, but at the bottom of them I do have what's known as a dead man nailed to it. All it is a block of wood nailed to the base of the post to further resist any torsional or pulling forces on it once it's in the ground. Getting these two front posts in the ground is really going a long way towards allowing me to visualize the space and the materials that I'm working with. I really love the look of this unfinished juniper trunk, and juniper can endure many years of ground contact, making it a popular material for fence posts in my part of the world. That stove that you see behind me, I'm going to set that in with some native rocks between those two posts to act as an improvised mantle. And I think it's going to be kind of a time-consuming project. Hopefully I have it all sewn up by next winter, but If you want to check that out, you'll just have to subscribe and check out my progress as I go. Now with those in the ground, I ran some poles along the top edges, and I'm super excited to see how it's all going to take shape. There's no doubt about it, springtime is my absolute favorite time of the year. I'm always amazed watching new plants sprout and flower all around, watching the land come back alive. Down here are some honey locust trees I germinated from a seed pod I found on the sidewalk. I hope someday they'll make a fine shade tree. Might take a decade or two, but I'm here for it. They say you can judge a man by the company he keeps, and Mr. Monster and I are always shamming out of work and hanging out in the wildflower garden, up to absolutely nothing constructive. I have all those rocks set up in such a way that they're attractive to some of my reptile friends. It gives them ample morning sun and some afternoon shade and even some rocky crevices to escape a roving kitty cat. I even mixed in some loose sandy material to give them ideal egg-laying sites. I love having those guys around. As summer approaches, the rains have more or less stopped and I begin to retreat from the midday heat. I really only work during the cooler hours of dawn and dusk, and I just love having that ability to change my sleep schedule whenever I feel like it. But you know, with the drier weather comes increased fire risk. One of my firewood cutting areas is on the edge of a wildfire that was nearly 500,000 acres in size. It only happened a couple years ago, and it reddened the skies above New York and Boston, thousands of miles away. But you know, all that said, there's still no place anywhere that I would rather be, and I'm really happy to tell you all that it looks like I may have found a new friend to share it all with. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate all the likes and comments. Make sure you all be well, be kind, and most importantly, make sure you all be easy.